And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Adam Caplan's here. We have 4 Eagles games. None of them are on Sunday. We've got the Eagles opener on a Thursday. It was dropped this morning that the Eagles will play the Packers on a Monday night. We also have a couple of other games. One is Black Friday. One is on a Saturday. So we'll talk about that and more right now. Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com, set to join us here on a Sports Bash Tuesday edition of Football at 4. It was dropped early this morning that the Eagles rematch with the Packers will not be Christmas. A lot of people thought that game might be Christmas night because of some of the other announcements on the schedule. But that game will actually be a Week 10 matchup on November the 10th against the Packers. We did find out yesterday, Adam Caplan, for the first time in 25 years, the Eagles will open the season against the Dallas Cowboys in week number 1 on a Thursday night. And this one, you could play this game anywhere, anytime, any day of the week, and people will watch it. Were you surprised that this will kick off the 2025 season?
As a viewer, yes, I wanted Washington based on what's happened with the Commanders, Mike. As you know, last season they came out of nowhere. They believe they have their next elite quarterback, their franchise quarterback. But we also know that ratings matter. And the Cowboys, and this game will be on NBC. NBC has a say on what game they get based on the money that they pay. I know the way it works. I've sat on the media calls over the years with the NFL. And in fact, Mike North of the NFL is now kind of the guy who oversees everything, who, by the way, is from the Philadelphia area. He's explained over the years what the partners are looking for. I'm with those who would rather have had the Commanders. Just from if you really love football, a more competitive standpoint, based on where Washington is, Mike, where Dallas, new coaching staff, new schemes on offense and defense. We can get into kind of what that'll look like in a minute, but we get it. It's the rivalry. It is just being from this market, Mike. Nothing compares to the Eagles-Cowboys. Sixers Celtics will be number 2, and we haven't had any juice with Sixers Celtics in decades, unfortunately, as you know, because of the Sixers' futility. But Eagles-Cowboys with Jerry Jones, who's the one constant, obviously. He stokes the flames. Okay, that's a big one. Dak Prescott, the Eagles' history against him. We know Zeke Elliott when he was there and other players. And Dallas, unfortunately, leads the all-time history 74-58, but Sirianni's won 3 out of the last 4 against those Cowboys, by the way.
Including 2 last year by a very lopsided score.
Yep.
Eagles blew out the Cowboys both games. No Commanders, no Lions. People thought about those 2 teams. The Bears were kind of mentioned there. But it will be the Cowboys. And, the Cowboys added George Pickens. That has got people talking a little bit more about them. The Eagles, Cowboys history. These 2 teams last met. It was the pickle juice game, Adam. And that game, you go back to that game, it's amazing. It's almost going to be 25 years to the day. That game was September 3rd, 2000. This game will be September 4th, 2025. But that game, the pickle juice game, really was the start of the Eagles as we now know them.
It is really interesting, Mike. The Eagles are over those 25 years are 20-5. Okay, in the Week 1 games. It's just funny because that pickleball game, I was there. Pickle juice game, I was there. It was so hot at the vet, by the way, and you know how the heat comes off of the vet turf, off of the old AstroTurf, and we had a joke on the show that we dropped this morning. Pickle juice was a real advantage till it wasn't. Then people saw that it really okay, fine. You had an advantage early. Wasn't like they were the only team doing it, and anyway, that stopped being an advantage. But yeah, and really, Mike, if you look at their history, the Eagles have won 8 out of the last 10 season openers. They're usually very prepared. I like the way Sirianni and his staff they've done very well. And by the way, in season openers. So you look at Cowboys, Mike, turning attention to them. You mentioned George Pickens. The Cowboys, Mike, for months have been looking for a receiver to play opposite CeeDee Lamb. They now have that. Brian Schottenheimer, the new head coach, will call the plays. He runs a up-tempo. They come out throwing. We outline on today's show on Inside the Birds how Schottenheimer was the brains behind Let Russ Cook with Russell Wilson in 2020. with the Seahawks. It was his idea to come out throwing. In the first half of games, they were super aggressive. I expect that to happen here. So this revamped secondary at the cornerback position, Mike, they're going to be tested. They're going to spread the Eagles out. That's coming here. Now, the Cowboys are going to have new running backs. Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders will carry the ball. They'll be their main ball carriers, so it's going to look different. Trayvon Diggs is not expected to be available earlier in the season. He's one of their top corners. They're not very deep at corner. That's great for the Eagles with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. And Overshown, who's their best linebacker, will not be ready. In fact, Mike, he tore his ACL, PCL, and MCL in one of his knees, and he's now had 2 ACL injuries in his career. So lots changing with the Cowboys. And one other thing, their defense is changing now. Matt Eberflus, the former Bears head coach, brings in his 43 zone scheme, and it's going to look different from what we see.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how that new Cowboys offense with the new play caller, you mentioned Pickens is now there. They tweaked their offensive line, adding Booker. They got 2 new running backs. How they match up with the Eagles defense, which obviously has 5 new players potentially going to be getting a lot of playing time over there. So last week we were talking a little bit about have the Commanders closed the gap. You know, we did the betting odds. The Cowboys were like plus 700 or plus 800 maybe. Have they closed the gap for you with this move?
The Pickens move, Mike, will help them because they were using Jalen Tolbert, who did a nice job last season, but they knew he's not a starting receiver. They missed on Jonathan Mingo. They acquired in the trade from Carolina. They know that he wasn't quite what they were hoping for. Turpin, the kick and punt returner, is not a bad backup, but he's not a starter. So they knew they had to have that. Tyler Guyton struggled at left tackle. He's still there. You mentioned Booker. He'll be the right guard. Their interior of the offensive line is not a problem. It's the left tackle position, which is an issue for them, and they're hoping, obviously, it's going to be better. You know, they couldn't run the ball. Rico Dowdle is a pretty good backup. It didn't work with him as a starter. That was a major mistake by Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones, by the way, Mike, still will not give up personnel control. He still has it. He's their GM. He does lean on Will McClay, their VP of player personnel, but Jerry has personnel control. He makes every single personnel decision with input, and someone 84 years old should not be doing that, but hey, it is what it is.
Yes, indeed. That is pretty funny. Other games that have been dropped, we got one this morning. A lot of people thought that game would be Christmas Day because the Eagles play on Saturday against the Commanders. We'll get to that in a minute. A lot of people thought the teams that played Saturday would go to Christmas. That's what happened last year. And this way the Eagles would play the Packers because they're already scheduled against the Bears on Black Friday. But you got those 2 games that dropped on Monday, the Bears-Eagles Black Friday game. That's on Amazon Prime. And these are the consequences of being the Super Bowl champion. You're going to play on a Thursday, a Friday, a Saturday, and a Monday, and no games announced for Sundays yet.
I know, it's so funny. Isn't that funny? So, Mike, let me expand on what we talked about a couple minutes ago. So, even if the Eagles did win the Super Bowl, they are what the league calls, and I remember that they've used this term several times on these media calls when they go over the scheduling. The Eagles are a national team. There are less than 10 of them, Mike, that the league believes are worthy of, even if they're just decent, should get at least 3 primetime games. Well, now we have to see, Mike. We kind of have to see as far as what time that game on Fox will be on Saturday, December 20th, in Week 16. But the Eagles are a national team, Mike. They're going to. I mean, I'd be stunned if they don't have at least 5 primetime games. Now, I could tell you from a business standpoint, people in the business end with clubs love this because it's a sense of pride. It's great for marketing. It's great for brand recognition. Coaches, I could tell you, do not like it. They are not real big fans of it.
At all. I know, talking to Colin Thompson, who played in the league, obviously, and he said the players don't like it. They're creatures of habits. They like their Sunday 1 o'clock games. 4:25s are okay. You know, he outlined before about, you know, when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, you know, in 2017 and then had a crazy schedule, is that, you know, when you play these primetime night games, your next day is all out of whack, you know, getting back to late, coming in from wherever you might get to. So the Eagles on Black Friday. Your thoughts on the Bears? That Bears team was a disaster last year, but Ben Johnson, they fixed the line. Their defense was pretty solid last year. That team's going to be interesting.
All right, so, Mike, the Bears have a brand-new interior of the offensive line. They traded for Joe Tooney, who got abused, Josh Sweat in particular, Mike, They absolutely destroyed him. Who was their? Remember, they moved Joe Tooney because of the problems they had at left tackle. Joe Tooney was their fourth left tackle last season, but they stuck with him. They know well into his 30s that he's on the downside of his career. They traded for him. The Bears did. He's going to be their left guard. Drew Dahlman signed a pretty significant free agent deal at center coming over from the Falcons. Jonah Jackson came over from the trade from the Rams, so their interior is new. Braxton Jones, Ozzie Trapilo will compete against him. He should. He could play right or left tackle. So they're not great at left tackle. So the Eagles, their defensive front has an advantage. Now, the one thing you can do, and the Eagles have issues, again, the one issue they have on defense, which is obvious, is the corner opposite Quinyon Mitchell. We don't know if they're going to get good play from Keely Ringo or Adoree Jackson. So, DJ Moore is a stud from Philadelphia, by the way. Roma Dunze, first-round pick. Luther Burden, second-round pick out of Missouri. You mentioned Ben Johnson. He'll run a lot of 11 personnel, 3 receivers, 1 back, 1 tight end. Oh, by the way, they drafted Colston Loveland. So they'll be able to flip-flop with Cole Kmet will be their inline tight end. With Loveland, Mike, and DeAndre Swift, who's an explosive back, that is incredible firepower for any team that's got to go up against them.
Yeah, I think that Bears team's interesting. I think all 4 teams, and by the way, this is another underrated part about the Eagles and the schedule, which will come out Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, will be fully announced, but they've got to play that whole NFC North with the Bears, the Vikings, the Packers, and the Lions. 4 very difficult games. And the AFC West, which is the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Broncos. Those 3 teams all made the playoffs last year, and probably an improved Raiders team. So 8 games on their schedule for all of the teams in the NFC East are going to be pretty difficult. And then, of course, the division games where you have the Commanders now. That was released. They will play on Saturday against the Commanders. This is a late-season Saturday game, which could be for the NFC East.
Yeah, I'm glad that, Mike, that the league put that in Week 16 at Washington, because I really would like the Eagles to have stakes. I think it's great. Hopefully for their sake and Washington's sake, it'll be great because, Mike, it's been a long time since the Commanders were relevant. It's because of Daniel Snyder. The people love to hate him and hated Washington, that team. And Ron Rivera didn't do a very good job, unfortunately, with their personnel. He was their head coach, but he also had personnel control, and it just didn't work out for him. But they're going to be good. I mean, now how good, we'll see. Because sometimes when you sneak up on people, we saw what the Giants did 3 years ago, Mike, and they fell off ever since. But when you really look at it, it's a daunting schedule. I mean, now we don't know exactly when the other games are going to be, but the Green Bay game's a team that they really know very well in Week 10. That's a Monday night game on November 10th. And that game, obviously, second half of the season could have playoff implications, particularly tiebreakers. You never know. And the Eagles beat them in the wild card round last year. The Bears game that you mentioned, I'm really looking forward to that. And here's another thing: will the Bears still be in it for a playoff spot? We'll have to see. I mean, that could be interesting. So, yeah, Mike, the Eagles are an elite team. They're what the league calls a national team, and they're going to get. I mean, we just mentioned 2 of the primetime games, and then of course the Friday game. That's not primetime, but it's on Amazon Prime at 3 p.m. Eastern. But that's a non-traditional time, Mike, and it's a non-traditional day, so it shows you the respect the league has for the Eagles.
Yeah, I know. The Saturday is late in the year. They throw those out there. That adds to the mix. You got a Black Friday game, and then it was announced earlier today that the Eagles will play Monday night against the Packers, and a lot of people were surmising that game had to go to Christmas because of the way the schedule was set up. I guess you get a break. No Lambeau Field for the people because that's where the Eagles will play, but it's a Monday night game against the Packers. So now they have 4 primetime games already announced, and I would imagine 2 more are going to come.
Well, we don't know what time the Week 16 game is at Washington. It would make sense if it's primetime, being that it's on a Saturday. Now, again, the Amazon Prime is not in primetime. It's not the primetime hours, but it's a specialty game. Let's call it a specialty game, Mike. The Packer game, I think it's great. The Eagles know them. They handled them pretty well last year. That Brazil game in Week 1, how good of a game was that? Although the slickness of the field was an issue. But it's cool, Mike. Look, the Super Bowl champion, they got a lot of juice. We know the Eagles are going to be very good if they're healthy. Green Bay always is good under Matt LaFleur, but they don't do anything in the playoffs, but they're competitive. And Cowboys Week 1, as we kind of end the schedule talk, it's because it's all new. Brian Schottenheimer's a holdover, but he wasn't calling the plays for Mike McCarthy, so we'll have to see what it looks like.
All right, Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast and, of course, InsideTheBirds.com, all their content off-season, and, of course, the schedule, which will be released tomorrow night. Always fun, especially if you're going to a road game. You'll see a couple of games now on wonky days here. If you want to go to Green Bay, that's going to be a Monday night game, so you're going to have to take a day off, maybe 2 from work. You got a Saturday Commanders game, which is good because you can get down there, maybe spend the weekend, get you a chance to get back in time for work. So you got that stuff there. Overall, we'll see the full schedule, and Adam and I will talk more about that when he is back on Friday here for another edition of Football at 4. All right, buddy, we'll talk to you then.
Thank you.
All right, Adam Caplan, everybody from the Inside the Birds podcast for another edition of Football at 4.